and pass over to Nate.
Cool. Thank you, Maddie. Appreciate that. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. So yes, we are going to have a little bit of a discussion about meta ads for law firms, from confusion to conversions. As mentioned, I'm Nate. I'm the PPC exec here, sitting within the paid social, paid media team here at Conscious. And yeah, I've been using Meta to run campaigns now for a couple of years, mostly for lead generation. So yeah, I'm just going to share a little bit about the platform, a little bit how you can think about setting yourself up for success with it, generate new inquiries, and bring in new business, yeah, to for your services. So I will just run through to the next slide. So I thought that it would be good to kick things off with a bit of an introduction to the platform and where things are at the moment. So these are some stats from Meta's reports of last year. So 2024 stats, 3.35 billion daily users across things stand at the moment. Meta encompasses Facebook, and Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and Instagram Threads. So yeah, across those platforms, 3.35 billion daily users, and the majority of those being still on Facebook at 2.11 billion daily users. And yeah, just the final one there on the spend that they reported, averaging at $274 million. Yeah, on daily ads. So, and an additional thing to that, I don't know the percentage, but obviously, yeah, it is. All of those platforms are mobile first platforms. So yeah, the higher percentage of the spend was allocated to that sort of creative and to those sorts of campaigns. So yeah, that is just a way that I thought that we'd kick off, just to give people a bit of a understanding of the usage, and that there are obviously a lot of people on the platform across all of the sphere. So we will go into some discussion today about these topics. So I'm going to kick off with campaign structure and campaign objectives. So yeah, this is really key, I think, and I think already there's a theme within this that when you're thinking about meta. Campaigns throughout the process, like understanding what your objectives are, is really, really key. And we'll get into that quite quickly. So yeah, we'll have a bit of a conversation about how things are set up, and yeah, what the best sort of cause for direction is with your objectives, lead conversion options. We'll have a bit of a discussion about the variations and options that you have for generating leads, and sort of, taking inquiry information, storing them, or pushing them out to your internal sort of lead generation platforms, or pushing them through to your own lead capture moments. Audience targeting. This is something that's really important to have a grasp on. And there's a few different ways to do this. So we're going to have a bit of a chat about that. As mentioned, with it being a visual platform, all of these visual platforms, mostly, well, Facebook and Instagram, yeah, we're going to have a chat about the creatives, ad types, copy, call to actions, and how you can utilize different selection of or combination of these. And yeah, we're going to have a bit of a conversation about tracking performance, and how you can set yourself up for success, and track those metrics. And we'll touch on budget and spend strategy as well at the end as well. So yeah, that's how we're going to yeah, how we're going to get through conversation. So we will begin with campaign structure and objectives. So when you begin in the back or end of the platform, if you click create a campaign, this is the first step that you are given. So you can see that there are six options for you when you're choosing a campaign objective, and that is awareness, traffic, engagement, leads, app promotion, and sales. And Meta will tell you what each one is good for. So already at this moment, you need to make a decision about, what are you there for with that campaign? Are you there to push services out in a way that's more informative, in a way like potentially awareness or traffic or engagement or something like that, or are you looking to gather people's information? Are you looking to get leads? Are you looking to push people out to your website? Do you have an app? Do you have an e-commerce aspect of your business? Do you want to actually just create sales? So already there's a decision that needs to be made at this point. And it's going back, like being aware or mindful of this theme of like what are our objectives and how does everything fit together? So yeah, if you are at the beginning of this, there's a few things to be aware of because basically, if you set yourself up for an awareness or engagement, then it's all about people engaging or viewing or commenting or liking or sharing your content, right? Okay, so that doesn't necessarily trickle down through to, obviously getting that, their information in terms of an inquiry. However, there is something to be said for having an awareness of these because if you are at the beginning of your journey with this and you haven't run any campaigns, then what you want in your account is data that comes from these campaigns. So when you have an account that has a lot of information about people that have liked your stuff, a lot of information of people that have shared or commented, then you can begin to partition those audiences and that data and retarget those with new campaigns, and then that they're people that are actually actively interested in your service because they've already engaged with you. So already like we're only at the beginning of this process, but there is quite a lot to be aware of and to be thinking about in which way you want to go down. So yeah, I think it's really good to have an understanding of this and yeah, as you can see there, I've highlighted leads because it is something that we'll go on to talk about now. So yeah, if you select leads and you go through to and that's something that you want to look at. The next sort of option that you have is obviously your conversion location, how you want to be generating these leads, how you want to be taking people's information, and yeah, so there's a few different options here. Obviously, if you have a website and a landing page that you want to be pushing people through to, then that's something that you can do. You will need to set up the Meta Pixel, which means that you can set up events. So when people go through the ad and then land on your landing page, you can track those events and you can track what clicks people make and make sure that you're kind of on top of those conversions and people's actions. You also have the opportunity to look at generating leads, within the platform using the instant form function. So this is something that I've used myself, and yeah, to some success. You can qualify people in the same way that you qualify people on a landing page, and yeah, you can hold their data and you can send it through. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a second, but you can push people's data straight through to your CRM systems or your email systems, or through to an API and then onwards from there. So So yeah, all of that is possible. Or, if you have the resource for it, and so you've got somebody, kind of a social media person who's managing, the account like quite actively, then you can send people through to Messenger or Instagram, on DM, or even WhatsApp, and you can have people kind of starting conversations in that way. And you can actually set up an automated sort of qualifying response chat with people. So actually, if they do come through that and they land in a WhatsApp message, and there's a WhatsApp conversation, actually, instead of having somebody then and there, you can say, "Oh, hey, thanks for coming through to here. Can I take some more information?" And you can continue to qualify people, until they get to a point that you want to be pushing them onwards to either get on the phone, or like leave you with their details for a call back. So yeah, that again, only at kind of like step two of the platform, and how you can set things up. But there's a lot of decisions that you can make already at this point. Again, just mentioning, if you do want to, generate leads through the platform, it is very easy to connect up, those, that part of the funnel, and send them onwards to your external CRM system, wherever you're sort of holding all of that sales information. Or if you want to be marketing to those people in a certain way, you can send them straight through to a MailChimp group, or a MailerLite group, or something like that, and then have an automation email that kind of says, "Thanks for giving us your email," and go onwards from that. So lots of different ways that you can do it, and yeah, that's kind of a bit of a top level of the options that are there. So after you have made those decisions, you are going to want to obviously do some work on targeting, so that you make sure that those campaigns are going through to the right people. There's a few different ways that you can do this, and I'm going to start with detailed targeting, because if you're at the beginning of this and you haven't got any information in your account, as I kind of was talking about previously, then you're going to want to, yeah, you're going to want to develop that account with some audience data. So this would be the way that you would probably want to begin with doing that. So on top of the usual sort of like gender, age, location, the detailed targeting options allows you to paint a picture of who your audience is, based on demographics, interests, or behaviors. So yeah, this is where, again, going back to that theme of understanding your campaign, understanding your audience, and kind of, really thinking about that before you get going, will really come into benefit you here, really, because, you can get, again, quite granular with this, and, you can get quite specific. Meta will say, every time you add something, it will say what size audience or whatever, that will whittle it down to. But yeah, if you have, this is an example that I put up here. So if you type in married, for example, or marriage, then you will get a number of options. So this is just one, married with children. But there's married, newlywed within 1 year, married for 10 years, married, for 5 years. So actually you can make decisions, about your audience and the service that you provide, and how relevant that will be to X audiences. And you can get quite, sort of granular within that. You can layer things up, and you can, say, yeah, they're this and this. So they're married and they're homeowners. They're married and they have a car, for example. And this, as mentioned, will be a good way to start to generate those audiences within your account. I've just got a screenshot next to the detailed targeting box there, the description, because I've had this question quite a few times in terms of the targeting and the audiences within the platform, about how it actually works. And so I think this is just a bit of an insight into Meta's logic of how it looks at people, or it looks at its users on the platform. So if we take marriage married with children, for example, people who have expressed an interest in or like pages related to married with children. So, like, if we look at the phrase expressed an interest in first, that would be liking, commenting, sharing stuff within either groups, Facebook groups, DMs, WhatsApp groups, whatever. Just engaging with content that is connected to this topic, right, of married with children. So yeah, that's I think like kind of key to have an understanding of. And then also pages that are relatively, that are more connected to that as well. So those are like two bits of logic that kind of go together, that help Meta create these understandings of people and will help to link them to your services. So yeah, that's how that looks from a detailed targeting perspective. Other methods of targeting include custom targeting and lookalike audiences. So with the custom targeting, you can actually include your own data. So you can upload your own data into the platform if that's something that you have. If you have an extensive sort of list, then you can do that, and you can make a lookalike audience off of the back of that. Or you can, when you've got data, enough data from your campaigns, say you've been running campaigns for about 3 months, 6 months, or something like that. Again, you can start to partition that data, and you can start to say, hey, look, these are the people that watch 3 seconds of that video. Let's target them with a specific campaign, and that's a bit more about a call to action and pushing them through that sales funnel, sort of lead generation, um uh yeah, kind of route. So yeah, that's a bit of context on the targeting, how that is set up within the platform, and the options that you have there. So yeah, and I think it's good to have a good understanding of how that works. um After you've made decisions about your audience and your targeting, and you're happy that they're going to be going out to the right people, you're going to want to make sure that the creative and the visuals and the messaging that you have, is the right, yeah, is the right tone, is the right messaging, is the, there's a lot to go into here. And yeah, as you can see, we've got some examples, and I've got some more on another page as well. So at the moment, as mentioned at the beginning, it's a mobile first platform. So most of the people, or most of the users within the platform, are using it on their phone. And yeah, video is the preferred sort of method. But also there is still a lot of image, single image, also sort of like partially animated image, which is kind of probably considered a video, but it's still just kind of within that, yeah, that partially animated image sort of visual. And then carousels as well, which I actually is the one that I don't have an example of. But a carousel, for anybody that doesn't know or needs a reminder, is similar to a single image. So it's similar to these ones on the left here. There are images, but actually you scroll through them when they appear on your phone. You scroll them to the right or to the left, and you can have up to 10 images, and they all can have slightly different messaging. So that's actually really key in terms of like, or can be really, beneficial in terms of, kind of, if you think about the space that you're paying, right? You can get a lot of information in that sort of tiny bit of sort of meta real estate, if you like. You can have different call to actions on each different slide, and yeah, like you can track those through the pixel and everything like that. So and here I think, you know you have to go back again to that theme of your objective, and also have an understanding of where you are at and what suits your audience, and who you are as a business and the services that you're offering, because that will determine what's right for you in terms of the creative that that is right for you. I think you can see here on this example on the left hand side, that's quite a branded, sculpted thing that is obviously very in keeping with the branding, the logo, and probably the website as you go on to follow on from that CTA. But then here, this one on the right hand side for air delayed is actually quite in some ways, rough and ready. Video of somebody just speaking straight down into a camera. And actually, there's a lot to be said that the platform does kind of support these, like visuals, a human interaction, speaking straight to you. That is something that is supported a lot on the platform. So, yeah, it's a decision that needs to be made internally with people who are maybe within marketing teams or branding teams and making decisions about, what's right for the service, what's right for the business, what's right for the campaigns, and finding out yeah, what's right. So, you don't really, with the video side of things, you don't have to be putting together necessarily things that are super sculpted. They don't need to be really long. If anything, shorter the better. 15 seconds maybe. You're not really going to have people for much longer than that. And actually, once you launch these campaigns, I've seen it with stuff that I've done in the past. You can see how long that people watch them for, and really, you've got people for 3 to 5 seconds before they kind of possibly lose interest, really. So yeah, that is a bit of a touch on that. There are some further examples here that just sort of show again a slightly different tone and feel. There's these kind of point of view ones. This one in the middle here, big copy over the top of a sort of DIY iPhone video. That's like very sort of, I feel like connected to the platform visually in a lot of ways. But then this one on the end, on the right hand side, is a bit more of a sculpted thing. Maybe that's a professionally done thing in the office for somebody. So that's a different option as well. What I didn't mention as well before starting to discuss this section is that we've actually taken all of these from the Meta Advert Library, which is a really, really useful tool. I would highly recommend anybody that's not used it before to go and check that out, because it allows you to view any adverts that is currently live on any of the Meta platforms. So if you want some inspiration, if you want to do some competitor analysis, and you want to see what people are doing, then this is a really good place to do that. So yeah, these are not taken from, Meta in terms of, somebody's been on the platform and they've like, oh, just take a screen grab of that. They are from this Meta Advert Library, and you can see how long people have been running them for. You can see what their communications are, what their copy is. You can see, what videos they've done, which platforms they've decided to put it out, if they've only decided to do it on Facebook, if they've only decided to do it on Instagram, etc., etc. So yeah, I've used this a lot. I continue to use it. I think it's a really, really great tool. So yeah, I would massively recommend anybody that's not used it to go and check it out. Because if your competitor is running campaigns, and they have been since the beginning of this year, and they're still doing it, then you could probably put a bet on that campaign is working for them, and they are generating the leads that they want. So that's yeah, I think it's yeah, it's really yeah, it's a really a good tool to have. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. CTAs as well. Meta offers a range of different ones. I won't go into too much detail about those, but you have to use the ones that are internal into the platform. You can't create your own ones, but there's a lot to be said with choosing the right one. And yeah, just kind of looking at this section as like a combination of things that kind of paint the picture that links back to that theme, back to your objective, back to your what's the overall goal here. Creative fatigue as well is another thing to be aware of. It is understood widely that the Meta platform doesn't want the same creative on there all the time. If you are running something for 6 months and halfway through that, just less than that or something like that, you start to see numbers sort of deplete or things not going as they were, and you haven't changed anything, it's because you haven't changed anything, So actually, you do need to be considering that. You do need to be aware of making small changes. They don't have to be, huge amends. You don't have to be changing big sort of like templates or like yeah, signed off sort of like brand guidelines or anything like that. Just changing the picture or changing the communications every now and again within the ads is going to be something that you're going to be wanting to do on possibly a monthly basis. There is some people suggest that you want to be doing it more frequent than that, but obviously it's whatever is in your resource to do, but it is something that you need to consider. Um, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else within ad creatives, ad types, copy, and CTAs. Or maybe come back to that if there's anything that anybody's got any thoughts on. Um, After you've set all of that up, you will want to obviously be tracking your performance and tracking your success and metrics. Basically, the platform, is set up with the things that you would expect to be there from something like this. So you can chop and change and have things how you want to be set up. And there's a lot of preset options that are based on going again back to those objectives. If you're doing an awareness campaign, then you're going to want to see how many people are viewing something, how many people are clicking on something, how many people are sharing something. If you're doing a lead generation campaign, you're going to be wanting to see how many people are clicking through, how many people are actually providing their details with you, and then you can download those leads straight away from the sort of metrics sort of back end. So yeah, I don't know that there's much kind of more. I don't want to go into too much detail about that today. But yeah, that's you can go into some detail there about that. Um, Budget is something as well that I wanted to touch on because there's a few different ways that you can set things up from a technical point of view, and it's a question that we obviously get a lot, and it's a question that I've had a lot from the team as well. Is how much to spend? Again, it's that theme going back to okay, well, what are our objectives? What's our context? Where are we at? Are we at the beginning of this journey? Have we run any meta ads? If that's and if the case is not, then maybe you want to look at starting some campaigns off with 350 to 500 a month or something like that, because then that will be enough for Meta to go through the learning stage, get an understanding of your objectives, and for you to gather that data that I was talking about, get some sort of analytics and some data in your account for your audiences, as I've mentioned. And then also, you will be able to set up lead generation campaigns within that as well, for sure. And you will see leads come in off of the back, I'm certain. So if you are a bit further down the line and actually you've gone through that process, you've already run campaigns for a little bit, you've tested some ad creatives, you know which communication, which sort of call to actions, the sort of tone in your ads, you know what's hitting with people and you know what's not. You've made some refines to your creative, and you're happy that actually, that what you've got at the moment is something that is scalable. Then obviously you're in a position then to use that data that you've got, to use the audiences that you've got, to be a bit more specific and maybe put a bit more behind something that is a bit more of a specific campaign, targeting people that have engaged with the content that you've put out already, but actually they haven't come over the line yet. So yeah, that's what I, on a sort of broad yeah, sort of way that I would kind of approach budget. Again, you can set things up in a number of different ways. I won't go into too much detail. You can do things over a lifetime, whether that's monthly, whether that's over a week or 2 weeks or whatever. You can set up a budget to run out over that course, or you can set things up to spend on a daily method. You can do it over campaign, so things are sort of distributed evenly through the campaign, or you can set things up on ad group level. So if you have similar or same campaigns, but you want to target you know, in London, but then you also want to target in Birmingham, and you want to target, put more money into the Birmingham pot for some reason or whatever, then you can partition things like that as well. So yeah, there's a few different ways that you could do it. And yeah, I hope that that kind of answers a bit about that. If you've got any further questions, then obviously let us know. Um, yeah, and I think that kind of brings us to a concluding sort of area, really. I didn't want to go into sort of too much more granular info about the platform because I think that from a top level perspective, is a good introduction to the platform, and those are the main things that I would consider, um, or encourage somebody to think about if they're considering using the Meta platform, whether or not that's Facebook or Instagram or yeah, or a combination of the two. Again, there's different people on different platforms. By and large, people tend to, I think, just put these out onto both. You can set up the campaigns so that they go to both at the same time. I think there's a lot of value in that, and that people do that a lot. So yeah, I think concluding before we maybe get into some questions, I would say, go back to the theme. If there's anything to take away from today, and then what I've just kind of mentioned is, yeah, understand your objectives, understand your audience. Take some time to really think about the services and the people that you want to reach with those services, and go and then run things out from there. Take time to consider a selection of creative assets, video, image, carousel. We would probably recommend that you do need a combination of all of these. So have a video, have an image, and have that carousel as well, where you can have a selection of infographics, as well as testimonials, some people focused stuff, some other content. And yeah, so and be mindful of that creative fatigue. And if you aren't changing anything, and a few months pass and things start to change, then that would be a place that you should be looking into. Use the meta ad library to conduct competitor analysis. Again, really, really great tool, really powerful. And you can see what's out there, see what other people are doing, see how they're communicating, see what people's tone is, and because everybody's doing it differently. But you can make a case to say, look, our competitors are out there, they are doing this, that this platform is right for these services. Set up Pixel for tracking. Again, that could be a developer or marketing side of things for people to be doing that, setting up the tracking and the events so that if you are pushing people out to your landing pages on your website, that actually that's coming from Meta, and tracking people's journeys following on from that. And then yeah, just as per with all of this kind of stuff, setting up your reporting alongside your sort of objective requirements, and yeah, monitoring them on a regular basis, and looking out for sort of like dips in performance that again could be linked to creative fatigue, or a number of other factors, or whether or not you want to maybe change things around because the video is working really well, and you want to push some more budget onto that, or you want to create a new audience that's based off of the back of the video because the campaign's finished but it did really well. All of this kind of stuff you can get, as I mentioned, there's options to get granular and creative with things along the way. And yeah, I think that more or less rounds things up with yeah, with the discussion. So yeah, Maddie, I will kind of pass things back over to yourself.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nate. That was a real clear and concise sort of introduction to meta ads, and I think it covered everything that we said it would. Hopefully, people have a little bit more understanding of what sort of ads might work for them and how to optimize them. I did have a slight panic when you shared the meta ad library screenshots because I thought, are we sharing data that we're not supposed to? Because it's quite scary how much information you can see on, someone else's advert, but really, really interesting. And I'm definitely going to be spending my afternoon doing some stalking. Let's